The Apache Trail, also known as State Route 88, starts in Apache Junction, Arizona. For reference, Apache Junction is 35 miles east of Phoenix, Arizona. Now, the Apache Trail is a 40-mile stretch of road, half paved, half dirt, and it winds through the outskirts of the Superstition Mountains, following the Salt River, zigzagging up and down the canyons all the way to the famous Theodore Roosevelt Dam. We kicked off our journey in Apache Junction, and let me tell you, the Apache Trail doesn't waste your time when it comes to delivering you breathtaking views. Right at the start of the Apache Trail, you'll see the famous Superstition Mountains. They have an elevation of just over 6,200 feet, or 1,910 meters for my people on the metric system. The mountains are known for many things, but perhaps are most famously known for the Lost Dutchman mine, which is supposedly a large gold mine located somewhere in the mountains. Over the years, many have claimed they've found it, later yielding no results. Others turned up nothing on searches, and some prospectors never returned. There is an endless amount of folklore to the Superstition Mountains, but that's a story for another video. Now, when it comes to the Apache Trail, you might be wondering, why is it so important, and what's the significance of it? Well, it's actually one of the biggest reasons why the city of Phoenix exists today. Let me get you caught up to speed. At the end of the Apache Trail lies one of the greatest achievements in American history, known as Theodore Roosevelt Dam. Now, the dam was built between the years of 1906 and 1911, but before construction of the dam could begin, a roadway between Phoenix and the dam needed to be established in order to help transport supplies, tools, resources, and workers to the site. According to SaveApacheTrail.com, construction on the road began in 1903 and was later completed by September 1905. The construction of the trail and dam brought in approximately 1,500 Apache and 400 Pima Indian laborers seeking employment. Upon completion, the trail was often referred to as the Mesa Roosevelt Road and Tonto Wagon Road, but according to maps.roadtrippers.com, it was named the Apache Trail after the Apache Indians who originally used this trail to move through the Superstition Mountains. As I dug further into the past of the Apache Trail, more research revealed that this old footpath was used by ancient Salado Indian tribes dating all the way back to 900 AD. And according to ajpl.org, the Native Americans continued to use this trail as a migratory route between their winter homes in the desert lowlands and their summer homes in the mountains along the Mogollon Rim, which is located in Payson, Arizona. The trail starts off pretty smooth, and as you make your way past the Superstition Mountains, you'll see a variety of small restaurants and shops. It does get pretty busy on the weekends, and you're sure to see a lot of bikers, truckers, off-roaders, and people horseback riding. One of the best tourist attractions on the Apache Trail, in my humble opinion, is Goldfield Ghost Town. It kind of reminds me of that ghost town that the Brady Bunch stopped in at when they were on their way to the Grand Canyon.
Our mistake was stopping in this ghost town and meeting that old prospector.
Anyways, don't let this ghost town fool you. It's not original, meaning it's a reconstructed ghost town from the original one that was founded in 1893, but was later abandoned after the mine veins faulted. It's worth a stop if you find yourself out in these parts. They have many little souvenir shops, activities for tourists, and places to get a bite to eat or enjoy a nice cold beer. Just don't drink too many and start acting up. Otherwise, you'll end up here. Just kidding. Or am I? As we make our way further into the Apache Trail, this is where things start to get a little more edgy, meaning the road is constantly winding around sharp curves, going up and going down, and to make matters even worse, there is no guardrails. So if you take a turn too wide and catch some loose gravel, this could end up sending you far down into the canyon below. And unfortunately, every once in a while, you still get the occasional douchebag flying down the road at ridiculous speeds. They're usually driving a blue BMW, and their name is typically Dylan, Kyle, or Chad. That's just the way it is. And wouldn't you know it, not too far into our journey, I pulled over to have a cigarette and gaze down into one of the ravines, and I found a few old car wrecks. Now, I'm not a huge car connoisseur, but if anybody watching has any idea what kind of vehicles these are, feel free to share with us in the comments section down below. Another article I read online stated that some of the vehicles found out here could be 50, 60 plus years old. Now make sure you keep watching because I found a lot more car wrecks further up the trail. One of them even appeared to have bullet holes in them. You never know what you're going to find out here. Now, as time went on and Roosevelt Dam was completed and the city of Phoenix started to grow, more dams were built on the Salt River to store water, such as Mormon Flat Dam. According to SRP.com, construction took place from 1923 to 1926, and the dam stands at 224 feet high, or 68 meters for my homies on the metric system, and has a length of 380 feet, / 115 meters. Now, the construction of the dam eventually led to the creation of Canyon Lake, which is a frickin' beautiful place to visit if you ever get the chance. And in a book I read called Images of America, Roosevelt Dam, it talked about how many parts of the original Apache Trail are now underwater, simply due to the construction of the dam and the water levels increasing over time and slowly erasing original parts of the trail. And if anyone is a history guru like me, I'll link that book down in the description below. I'm pretty sure it's still on Amazon. And if you do live in Arizona, you can also purchase it at the Superstition Mountain Museum, which is also at the start of the Apache Trail. It's just another really impressive attraction to check out, and it's filled with so much history. On site, they have many recreations of old jails, banks, barbershops, churches, and much more. Many of the displays there do have interpretive signs, so you can learn a lot about the ways of life back in the day. It's also worth noting that they have a pretty impressive railroad museum that will take you on a journey throughout Arizona's history. There is so much on display there and filled with such great detail. Again, I could probably make an entire separate video on this, but that's for another day. Let's hop back on the trail. As we start to leave the Canyon Lake area and move further up the trail, we will now be approaching Tortilla Flat. It was established in 1904, and according to visitaj.com, Tortilla Flat was once an old stagecoach stop on the Apache Trail, where miners, settlers, and travelers would resupply and let their animals rest as they continued on their journey. Nowadays, it's still a pretty popular place for people to stop in at and get a drink and a bite to eat. They occasionally do have live music, and it also makes for a great place to buy souvenirs and get an ice cream, which is a regular thing for me every time I go out there. Now, we still have a few miles of pavement left before things get interesting and it turns to a dirt road, but about a mile or so past Tortilla Flat, I decided to pull over again and fly my drone down into a canyon, and this is what I found. Yet another old vehicle, and the thing that stands out about this one is the many bullet holes. Now, this very well could have been used as target practice and then eventually dumped here because the people that shot at it were too lazy to take it to a junkyard. But I highly doubt there was any nefarious activity associated with this vehicle, because if there was, it would probably be in the hands of law enforcement somewhere, and I doubt that I'm the first person to find this car wreck. But you guys let me know what you think. I got back on the road and continued on with my journey, and even for a paved road, some of these hairpin curves can really catch you off guard. It doesn't surprise me as to why there's so many car wrecks as there is at the bottom of these canyons, and as I was driving, I remembered a very specific location I pulled over at a few years ago where I also spotted some old cars, and I think I just found them. So now, I do believe we are at the second location of some car wrecks that I spotted about 3 years ago. I came down this road that you see behind me here to take a leak, and once I finished my business, I was walking around, checking out the area, getting some pictures, and I happened to glance down into the canyon, and I saw at least 2 car wrecks, and I think we are at the exact same spot. And there they are. There's one right down there, and there's another one kind of in front. I don't think you can see it because there's too much brush, but we're going to get the drone up in the air in just a second and fly it down there. But just to give you a little reference, so up there is a, I don't know, horseshoe-shaped turn, and if you were taking that too fast, it's definitely a long ways down there. I don't think you'd walk away from that one. It's pretty rocky and jagged, so that would be a rough fall. But I think there might even be another one back there. As we continue to check out these car wrecks, here's a couple things you might be wondering. Number one, what is up with the X's that are spray painted on these vehicles? Well, this is done to help signify to search and rescue that these car wrecks have already been checked and are no longer a concern. And number two, why don't they remove these vehicles? Well, back in the day, it was a very, very risky and costly process. Well, technically, it still is today, but back in the old days, they just left them there. Nowadays, it's a different story. Due to advancements in technology and to help preserve the environment, they do try to retrieve any vehicles that go over the edge as quickly as they can. We just made it to the part on the Apache Trail where it goes from pavement to dirt. And this is where things start to get a little interesting, because we do have a little bit of a climb all the way to the top, and there's no telling what the road is going to look like. I mean, they usually do a pretty good job of maintaining the road, but you know, there's people out here in 4x4s, dirt bikes, all the rain and whatnot, so you never truly know what the condition of the road's going to look like. Guess we'll have to find out. The road wasn't all that bad, but that didn't make the drive any less intimidating. I did my best to film and not go over the edge, but after a couple minutes I decided to put the camera down and focus on the road, because, you know, I value my health. And here's a drone clip of another car on the same path just to give you a better visual of what I was working with. It hits kind of different when you see it from the perspective of a drone compared to being in the car. Now, unfortunately, this is about as far as we could go on this side, but hold up, this is not the end of the video. Let me explain. They closed off this portion of the Apache Trail back in 2019 due to extensive flood damage. Some parts of the road were completely washed out, while other parts are completely unpassable due to the amount of boulders and debris blocking the road. Ironically enough, the flood damage happened to hit the most rugged and most dangerous part of the Apache Trail, which is known as Fish Creek Hill. And I consider myself pretty lucky to have been able to experience the drive going up and down Fish Creek Hill before the torrential rainfall got to it. As scary as it was, it's definitely in my top 5 of most scenic views in all of Arizona. But wait, it gets crazier. So in my time, I've seen trucks hauling boats and RVs coming up and down this part of the trail. Seeing that gave me more anxiety than me doing the driving. I have no idea what in the world compels people to make that drive in an RV. Now, a truck hauling a boat, I could understand that. But on certain parts of the Apache Trail, it's barely wide enough for one vehicle, and what usually happens is the smaller of the two vehicles gets as close to the side of the road as they can without dying, while the other vehicle passes. And for the most part, everyone is super nice about it and willing to give each other enough time and room to pass. It's not a race, and at the end of the day, everyone just wants to get to their destinations with their families as safely as possible. On the contrary, though, my coworker has told me that in his time in Arizona that he's almost seen fistfights break out on the Apache Trail, typically when one RV meets another and there isn't enough room to let each other by. Usually what happens in this scenario is someone has to back up until there is enough room on the road for the other RV to pass. Now, on certain parts of the Apache Trail, this is no big deal and can be easily done, but just imagine if two RVs came face to face on Fish Creek Hill. I'd be counting my blessings. Not to mention, if you went off the edge and happened to survive the fall, which can be up to a 1,000-foot drop in some places, number one, you wouldn't have any cell service, so calling 911 is out of the picture. And number two, if no one saw you go off the edge, no one would even know you're down there, and it could be quite a long time before someone spots you and help can arrive. Now, being that we can only go this far on the Apache Trail due to the 5 miles of road closure, here's how we get to the other side and pick up where we left off. Basically, we're going to go all the way back into Apache Junction. From there, we will make our way onto Bush Highway. We're going to take Bush Highway until we reach State Route 87. From there, we will follow State Route 87 until we get to State Route 188. We'll follow State Route 188 until we get to Roosevelt Dam. And it's pretty simple. From there, we'll just hop back on the Apache Trail and take it until we get to the road closure sign from this side. Alright, so now we're picking up where we left off. And this is about as far as you can go on the other side. But we just made that long drive all the way around here. So we're going to pick up here and drive all the way to the dam. And I'm going to show you guys how terrifying it looks in certain places along the way. So let's keep it going. Now at this point in our journey, we are just 13 miles shy of Theodore Roosevelt Dam. And the condition of the road doesn't differ too much from the previous section of the Apache Trail. And if anyone watching this video is curious if your vehicle will make it out here, here's what I'll tell you. I cannot speak for you. You know your vehicle better than I do, but I've traversed the Apache Trail many times in my little Hyundai accent. Go Hyundai, and I've never had an issue. Is 4x4 or a high clearance vehicle required? Absolutely not, although you will probably make it through at a quicker pace and drive with a bit more confidence. I've seen newer model Mustangs and Camaros out here. I wouldn't recommend it, but it's your life. Live it how you see fit. If they can make it out here, you can too. Tell you one thing, as beautiful and scenic of a drive as this is, you definitely want to make sure that you have plenty of water, food, and that your car is well equipped to come out here. Because there are certain areas where you do get cell service, but I would argue the majority of the trail probably doesn't have cell service. Gotta be careful when you're coming out here. Other than that, super beautiful drive. So here's what the majority of the road looks like all the way back to the dam. I don't know, you got about 10 to 15 feet of road right here in width, and this is all that really separates you from the edge, just a little wall of dirt and sand. If you look over here, oh, that is a pretty cool cactus. Lots of those out here. You can see the marina in the distance. Not a whole lot of activity going on down there today. I actually stopped down there because I had to go to the bathroom because that's what humans do. But from down there, really beautiful view. It was a fairly elegant drive for a few miles, taking in the views of Apache Lake, the cacti, and the surrounding landscapes. But then the winding roads and hairpin turns made a comeback. Now that didn't bother me so much as I've been out here plenty of times in the past, but at the same time, there is currently a lot of road work going on out here. The end goal is to hopefully reopen the Apache Trail, but in doing so, there is a lot of preparation involved. One of the workers told me that they're paving certain sections of the Apache Trail in hopes to make the commute out to the damaged parts more efficient for the workers and vehicles. According to Arizona Department of Transportation.com, it's estimated that it would cost $33.7 million to restore access safely and sustainably. Now this drive can be challenging at times. It requires sharp mental focus without the constant worry of falling off the edge and plummeting to your death. And when you throw in the factors such as construction workers and their vehicles, it made it a little more nerve-wracking. And like I said earlier, on certain segments of the road, there's only enough room for one vehicle, and at times I had to wait for them to pass or move over as far as they could before I could get around them. If you're wondering how I was able to drive and shoot these clips without dying, well, I did it with my DJI Mini 4 Pro drone. This little drone has active track, so I was able to scan my car and set it to follow without having to focus on the road and my drone remote at the same time. And if you do want to check that drone out, I'll be sure to link it down in the description below. I've used active track a few times on my adventures, but not necessarily to this degree, so the fact that I was able to pull this off safely without crashing my drone was pretty impressive. And we were able to successfully make it to Theodore Roosevelt Dam in one piece and not having to file any insurance claims. And if you want me to do a video on the history of Theodore Roosevelt Dam, let me know in the comments section down below.